What up, it's your boy Willie G. This is the follow-up to a recent video I did titled NHTSA Investigation Part 1, so make sure you check that out. However, in this video, I'll be taking a look at the follow-up report by the Associated Press now that the investigation from NHTSA has been released. But before we begin, you know what to do. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell to be notified of all the latest content as soon as it drops. Automakers reported nearly 400 crashes of vehicles with partially automated driver assist systems, including 273 involving Teslas, according to statistics released Wednesday by U.S. safety regulators. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration cautioned against using the numbers to compare automakers, saying it didn't weight them by the number of vehicles from each manufacturer that uses the systems or how many miles those vehicles traveled. First, right off the bat, this seems like they're admitting that the report is incomplete and, as they mentioned, shouldn't be used to compare automakers. But seeing I and others like me will be reacting to this news that seems like a completely irrelevant statement, as those of you watching this video can attest to. So let's continue on. Second, I also want to stress the importance of leaving out these key metrics. As I mentioned in part 1, card in the corner, link in the description. Check that out if you haven't already, as there's some important clarifications made in that video that I won't be going over in this one, so be sure you check that out. The most important metric for measuring the accident rate for an automated system is the length of time between events, vehicle crashes in this case. Simply measuring the number of crashes doesn't accurately reflect how often the system malfunctions and results in a crash. Not only is this misleading, but potentially harmful to the public. Shame, NHTSA.
Shame on you. And shame on you, and shame on your whole ill-mannered town.
Hey, that guy's shaming us. My self-esteem sure didn't need that.
Automakers reported crashes from July of last year through May 15th under an order from the agency, which is examining such crashes broadly for the first time. Quote, as we gather more data, NHTSA will be able to better identify any emerging risks or trends and learn more about how these technologies are performing in the real world, said Stephen Cliff, the agency's administrator. Tesla's crashes happen while vehicles were using autopilot, full self-driving, traffic-aware cruise control, or other driver assist systems that have some control over speed and steering. The company has about 830,000 vehicles with the systems on the road. Now, I spoke about this metric in the last video, so I won't harp on it here, but I do want to call out the fact that it seems to me that there appears to be some copy and paste reporting going on, which is doubly concerning when the information being reported is false. Word of advice, don't trust everything you read, kids. The next closest of a dozen automakers that reported crashes was Honda, with 90. Honda says it has about 6 million vehicles on US roads with such systems. Subaru was next with 10, and all other automakers reported 5 or fewer. I think this would be a great opportunity for me to remind folks about the differences in capabilities that each of these systems possesses. Nissan uses one camera and a radar. Ford, difficult to find information on it, but I believe they use the same setup as Nissan. Feel free to comment below and correct me if I'm wrong. GM, same thing, one camera and a radar. Most other companies only use the front-facing camera, maybe the rear camera and the ultrasonic sensors. The point is, there are predictable limitations in the technological approach of each of these vehicles. They are only able to gather video data from 1 or 2 cameras, which severely hinders their ability to gather data at scale, making the system less reliable and therefore the vehicle less safe, in my opinion. Now, Tesla, on the other hand, uses 8 cameras for true 360 vision to achieve its ability to see the road. For a car that has 1 camera to be compared with another car that has 8 of them is absolutely nonsensical. I mean, really, that's like people who advocate for biological men to compete against biological women in sports. Just silly. And that fact alone, the one about cameras, not men competing against women, should be enough to imply that the vehicle with more cameras is more informed and therefore much safer than a vehicle with less information being fed to it. In a June 2021 order, NHTSA told more than 100 automakers and automated vehicle tech companies to report serious crashes within 1 day of learning about them and to disclose less serious crashes by the 15th day of the following month. The agency is addressing how the systems perform and whether new regulations may be needed. 6 people were killed in the crashes involving driver assist systems and 5 were seriously hurt, NHTSA said. Of the deaths, 5 occurred in Teslas and 1 was reported by Ford. 3 of the serious injuries were in Teslas, while Honda and Ford each reported 1. Tesla's crash number may appear elevated somewhat because it uses telematics to monitor its vehicles and get real-time crash reports. Other automakers don't have such capability, so their reports may come slower or crashes may not be reported at all, NHTSA said. A message was left seeking comment from Tesla. This is important to keep in mind when considering the paragraph just before this one, which mentions that 5 deaths and 3 serious injuries occurred while using any feature of the driver assist system Tesla has to offer. Just to revisit those, they are autopilot, navigate on autopilot, FSD beta, and traffic-aware cruise control. They also mention Tesla's ability to generate real-time crash data, while other automakers may not be reported at all. How safe can an automaker truly claim for their vehicles to be if they aren't able to provide information to back up those claims? In some ways, Tesla's being scrutinized for how good their products are by comparison to others. But that's important because at least a transparent company like Tesla actually exists and sheds light on the ones who engage in otherwise shady business. Maybe that's the point of this investigation after all. Tesla crashes accounted for nearly 70% of the 392 reported by the dozen automakers. So I think here we're seeing a bit of the author of this article trying to elicit a response from readers. It's already been noted in the article that the number of vehicles was 273 out of nearly 400. Now, after all that, they want to add the statistic toward the end just to remind you, hey, Tesla begin in accidents. Don't you forget. Nice try. But in part 1, again, check the link in the description, as the first article mentioned, 85 crashes were removed, so the number of Tesla vehicles actually being considered is probably closer to the original 191 the Associated Press first reported on. Strangely enough, that information also comes towards the end of the article. Go figure. Although the Austin, Texas automaker calls its systems autopilot and full self-driving, it says the vehicles cannot drive themselves and the drivers must be ready to intervene at all times. Manufacturers were not required to report how many vehicles they have on the road that have the systems, nor did they have to report how far those vehicles traveled or when the systems are in use, NHTSA said. At present, those numbers aren't quantifiable, an agency official said. However, NHTSA may seek such information later. In the meantime, the new data has enabled it to find out about crashes much faster than before. At present, it's using the crash data to look for trends and discuss them with the companies, the agency said. This could be interesting down the line. We'll have to see what the implications of this are for other automakers. My hunch is not good. Already, NHTSA has used the data to seek a recall, open investigations, and provide information for existing inquiries, officials said. Also, they said it's difficult to find out how many drivers actually use the technology. I've got a funny feeling it ain't many. Quote, "This will help our investigators quickly identify potential defect trends that can emerge," Cliff said. "This data will also help us identify crashes that we want to investigate and provide more information about how people in other vehicles interact with the vehicles." Honda said it has packaged the systems to sell more of them, which could influence its numbers. Quote, "The population of vehicles that theoretically could be involved in a reportable event is much greater than the population of vehicles built by automakers with a less aggressive deployment strategy," the company said. Pretty innovative strategy you got going there, Honda. Bravo. Also, reports to NHTSA are based on unverified customer statements about whether automated systems were running at the time of a crash. Those crashes may not qualify for reporting to NHTSA after more data is gathered, Honda said. And conversely, crashes not reported to NHTSA by unverified customer statements about whether automated systems were running at the time may qualify for reporting to NHTSA after more data is able to be gathered. In other words, when NHTSA realizes how useful the information Tesla is able to provide is regarding crash data, it's likely they begin requiring all automakers to be able to report this information. And when they do begin to report it, I can only imagine what we might find. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which represents most automakers, said the data collected by NHTSA isn't sufficient by itself to evaluate the safety of automated vehicle systems. NHTSA's order also covered companies that are running fully autonomous vehicles, and 25 reported a total of 130 crashes. Google spinoff Waymo led with 62, followed by Transdev Alternative Services with 34, and General Motors controlled Cruise LLC with 23. Waymo, the autonomous vehicle unit of Alphabet, said it has more than 700 autonomous vehicles in its fleet. The company is running a fully autonomous ride-hailing service in Arizona and testing one in California. The company said all the crashes happened at low speeds with airbags inflating in only 2 of them. In 108 of the crashes involving fully autonomous vehicles, no injuries were reported, and there was only 1 serious injury? What? In most of the crashes, vehicles were struck from the rear. Holy shit. Out of only 700 vehicles, they reported 62 crashes, and that's while operating exclusively on pre-mapped routes using LiDAR. That is absolutely insane. Why the fuck wasn't that the headline of this article? Or at least an earlier paragraph, rather than the second to last. So that does it for this one. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you found any of this information useful, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, tap that bell to be notified of all the latest content as soon as it drops. Thanks for tuning in to The Willie G Show. Catch you on the next one. Peace.